Welcome back to Between2Bs, the official podcast of the B2SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Hey everybody, Dave Walker here with the Between2Bs podcast. You know, occasionally we stick our head through the door of the collective B2SMBI kitchen and ask, hey cooks, what's happening? And this week on Between2Bs, we actually get invited in. Seriously, Rachel Nulman-Schapiro, who's the VP of Product Marketing for vcita, and Chris Vasquez, the CPO of AWeber, join us ready to talk current state of AI product in this $2.5 trillion B2SMB marketplace. Join us.
If you sell at scale to small business, you need to be here. The 7th Annual B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum, May 14th and 15th in Sonoma, gathers business to small business executives from dozens of major brands to talk shop. The winning, keeping, and growing of SMB customers. Our 2025 B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum extends the central theme of our 2024 events, selling successfully in a small business marketplace that's seen extraordinary growth and change in the last 2 years. Combining keynotes from B2SMB sales superstars with frequent small-sided breakouts, the 2025 Leaders Forum presents research-based insights, best practice playbooks, and a steady dialogue of shared wisdom on winning, keeping, and growing SMB customers. Our B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum sold out these last 2 years, so it's not too early to save your spot at our top-to-top networking and strategy exchange for senior B2SMB execs. Get your tickets today at b2smbi.com/leadersforum25. Are you ready to master the new sell? Join us for the 6th Annual Leaders Forum in Sonoma, hosted by the B2SMB Institute. Tickets now on sale for the B2SMB Institute 2025 Leaders Forum. Members attend free. Email info@b2smbi.com for more information.
Hey everybody, Dave Walker here. And you know I start every one of my podcasts with I'm so excited about my guests, but the truth of the matter is I am really excited about these guests because I have so much respect for them. First, Rachel Nulman-Schapiro, so good to see you again.
It's so great to be back, Dave. It feels like just yesterday we were here, but so much has happened since. I can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like every week I wake up and it's another year. You know, it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Vasquez from AWeber, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much. Last time we talked, I was saying, and I still feel this every single day. This is the most fun I've had at work in forever, working on these things that we're working on. Can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, if as much as I tend to end the day a little overwhelmed at just the amount of content to consume, to feel like you even have a modest level of understanding of what's going on out there as it relates to AI and its impact, I feel like it's so fun. It's so exciting. And there's so many ways in which I'm figuring out to use it. Like, I'll admit that we just got finished using ChatGPT to sort out 3 teenagers, 2 cars for the summer. That's the question.
Did it work? That sounds like a challenge, even for ChatGPT.
Unbelievably good. I mean, it was down to it anticipated all of the kind of the conflict nuances and what do you need to set
what
it.
A life hack for
very,
parents.
very little prompting. It was absolutely amazing. So take that
That's
one.
That's awesome. This just a little anecdote to plus one that we're going to Miami this week for a conference, and we have some limitations to our lives. We're vegetarian. We love pickleball. I asked ChatGPT to plan an itinerary for us, told it where we were staying. Perfect. First try. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
One day we're just going to wonder how we lived without
Yes.
ChatGPT, how we ever found any information about anything.
Yeah, and it does remind me, and this kind of hopefully in some ways grounds our conversation for the next 45 minutes or so. But this reminds a number of people that I've spoken to, and myself included, the early days of the internet, and there was this sense of the tremendous impact that was coming, and everybody was doing what they do now, which is trying to guess when is the moment when it really kind of it's fully baked. It's arrived at its maturity. And I'm not sure I would argue that the internet has yet, after 20 plus years, has arrived at its maturity. It's still doing amazing things. But
I just love that you said that, because something we say literally every single day is and I'm sure we'll dive into this, AI being sort of a buzzword, and how, our commitment to the SMB market or to any consumer market is to drive with the value and not with the fact that it's AI. But the way you said it was, the internet. So we like to say, the fact to say it's built on AI one day is going to be just like saying, oh, it's on the internet, like as if that's exciting,
Yeah, exactly.
We need to be prepared for that day. And I'm sure we'll dive into this today.
Well, let's start with just kind of from each of your perspectives. Chris, we can start with you. From your perspective, how do you describe the state of current AI directed at small businesses? And let's just take the U.S. as a starting point.
So I think on the actual consumer side, I think we have this perspective that no one is using AI, that like, oh, we're super early. And I think that's wrong. The amount of people that I talk to that are just like small business owners who use ChatGPT or who use Copilot. I hear Copilot all the time from people because it's just made their way into a product that they use all the time.
Right.
I think would surprise a lot of us who don't get to talk to small business owners in the day-to-day. Now, do they use everybody's AI product that we've added to our services? I would say that's where the real challenge is. And that's where, like, when I think about AWeber, and what one of our biggest challenges is integrating these tools, like you were saying, Rachel, to the point where it's not an AI tool that you need to be aware of, but is just value in the platform that folks get. Then the benefit of these AI tools is that you can give people value without effort. Like most of what you can do at AWeber requires effort, even setting up your automated sequences that then give you value over time without additional effort. What these LLMs specifically can do is understand customers and assume intent, so we can give them content value without effort and just allow them to tell us, is it worth sending or not? In our case, we're an email marketing platform. Is this worth sending? Do I feel comfortable with it? Not, I have to start this process and then eventually I'll get some sort of result. Now, the way that I think that applies to our ecosystem as a whole, we were talking about this last time we talked, Dave, is I think we have a real expectations problem. But it's not the expectations problem we normally have, where we overpromise and people are disappointed. It's the reverse. It's like these tools that we're working on can do so much more than people believe. And we somehow have to get them to believe that it can do what, not just what we're saying it can do, but that it actually can. That's the big hurdle that we're at least confronting right now.
So, Rachel, that's a lot to take in what Chris just kind of laid.
Sorry.
It's all right. But I want to give you the opportunity to kind of spin it up the same way. First from the broad perspective, how is it going? I mean, how is AI to SMB going? And then really, what are you seeing as Chris was kind of laying out? Okay, but there are these specific things that really either are falling in place or need to fall in place for next gen to really go forward.
So Chris, I relate to what you're saying about us underestimating, to what degree SMB is already kind of living with AI and already have, like, in the back of their mind, they know that AI is there and can help them. Sometimes they're not sure how exactly or where, but they kind of know it's there. And, Dave, I think the first time we spoke about AI for SMBs, you and I, was probably about a year ago, probably like April 24. And I was actually just curious before the call. I hopped into, we look at our numbers all the time, but I wanted to see if I would compare the adoption of our, AI solution at vcita in the SMB market back then and now. Now we are actually at 224% growth since this time last year. And even just since the last time we spoke in December of 2024, we're already on 32% growth from last year. So looking at the adoption of AI in the SMB market. So I think there is definitely an appetite for AI solutions in the SMB market. I think our responsibility as tech providers in this market is to make sure we're not just scraping the surface, that we're really going all the way in terms of delivering value and helping these people, making their lives easier, helping them get home on time for dinner, helping them kind of break that glass ceiling and explode and become the best version of their dream business. Something we're particularly excited about at vcita is the launch of agentic AI capabilities. Because I think if last year or even almost 2 years ago, it was all about Gen AI. And that's great, putting a small business in a position where they can chat with someone and write these prompts and get answers, that's fantastic. And I think that proved itself and it's going to continue to grow. But I think where the technology is now, we have to take this agentic AI theme and this idea that AI isn't just something you could prompt and get a conversation going with. AI can actually be an agent that can carry out tasks on your behalf, sometimes completely automated. And I think the potential there is huge. We're particularly excited about that. And that's something we're working on, or the team is working on as we're speaking right now.
So as you both well know how much I hate the word agent, but we won't go there. I won't dwell on that. But Chris, from your perspective, is what Rachel's laying out is for the emergence of agentic AI? Is that something you see very much in your products as well?
Yeah. We back in early 2023, we added this sort of what I like to think of as like a thin layer on top of somebody else's model, like OpenAI, to our message editor, where you could ask an LLM to give you content. You could say like, shorten this paragraph or add a promotion for one of my products. And it would do it. And that was cool. And some people used it, but it was hard to justify the value of that when OpenAI exists. And that's what your ChatGPT is, what you're using every day, or Gemini, or whatever your model of choice is. But around Christmas of 2024, we started rolling out our first agent, which is a newsletter creation agent. And the interaction with that is just kind of mind-blowing. We've had people task the agent with creating a month's worth of email marketing for them, and it's done, and the user is satisfied with it, like actually schedules the emails in 5 minutes. And this is where I'm saying, like, the expectations are just unreal. And the way that our particular agent works, that I think really kind of hammers home a point Rachel was making, is you can ask it to do things, but it also proactively every week sends you a newsletter because it knows that that's its task. And Rachel, when you were talking about the glass ceiling of becoming what you can be as a business, that really landed with me, because Dave and I were talking about this, and he said something that has just been in my mind ever since. It was like, these agents get things out of the way that keep people from making their aspirations a reality. Like, people want to do all of these best practices we tell them about. They want to send email regularly to their audience so they catch them at the right time. But life and business gets in the way. You have kids that you have to take to dance class. You have your actual business to do. So how do you stay consistent? And that's where these agents can really help. If it's a repeated task that is fairly well defined, right now at least, they're excellent at it. And our adoption of our agent has vastly outpaced the adoption of the thin wrapper on top of OpenAI.
And so, Rachel, please feel free to respond to what Chris just laid out and kind of how you guys are seeing that intersection point between the small business and the agent, because I'm very curious about that. But kind of more to the point, how are your SMB customers upgrading their skills? They can be entirely surrounding just the execution of AI partners or whatever, but just kind of preparing themselves for the changes that AI potentially impacts on their workflow, or how they interface with a business management platform like vcita's. How do you see them upskilling, basically?
So when I look at how our SMB users are using AI in the context of vcita. And vcita is a business management platform. So our users are using our solution to do things like, communicate with their clients and send them their invoices and collect payments and schedule their appointments, etc. And there's two ways I'm seeing small businesses really, create value based on the AI solutions we give them. And the first, and this is the more traditional role AI has played, as if traditional is even a word here, this is maybe from the last year or so, but the more traditional way, or the way that we've kind of been working on mostly in 2024 is more of a pull. So at SMB, we'll see that there is an agent that they can consult with and ask questions and, kind of use to either generate content or ask for advice. And they'll sit down and have a conversation with this virtual agent and ask things that they possibly never asked before or never really had someone to ask about. They'll ask questions about, hey, am I priced right? Should I be charging more for the services I'm offering? Or am I doing enough? Maybe there's more types of services I can be offering. Maybe my competition is actually offering more than I am. Or, maybe I need to hire someone, or maybe I should open another location. So they're kind of using AI to gain access to these insights and strategize and dream big and get ideas. And that's something that we've seen work really well for small businesses. But what I'm particularly excited about is not just the pull, it's the push. It's where AI, will step in while one of our users is performing one of their critical tasks, like answering a client's message or putting together a price quote or an estimate for a new client or booking their next appointment. AI can step in and say, hey, what you're doing right now is actually really time consuming. And I'm sure you have so many other more strategic things to do with your precious time. Let me handle this for you. And let me step in and draft an answer for your client. Let me look at your calendar for you and book this appointment for you in your next availability. You've already generated 10,000 price quotes on this software. So now I can actually do this for you and I can show it to you, before I send it, just so you feel comfortable. But we're basically training SMBs or helping SMBs understand that they should be focused on their areas of specialty. If you are an accountant or a hairdresser or a, mental health professional, you should be focused on delivering your value to your clients, what you've been trained to do. You went into this business because you love treating patients or walking dogs or cutting hair or whatever it is, not because you love scheduling appointments and, generating invoices. So let the system, let AI do these things for you. And you focus on what you do best and what you love. And that to me is the biggest lesson we need to teach ourselves about, delivering value to small businesses, helping them do what they love, what they do best, and just kind of trying to automate everything else.
I love that. Because as you're talking about that, the coolest thing about agents, we need a better word for them, but the coolest thing about agents, if they work, is they don't require upskilling because it's not requiring you to do something new. They mimic the interactions with a team member. So as long as you are comfortable speaking to a team member and word building agents correctly, it doesn't require learning new technology. So I'm not sure of how you're approaching this, Rachel, but one of the things that's really important to us is that the agentic conversations are not limited to the platform. So when our agent sends things to our users, right now it's sending them emails. You can interact with it in the platform if you want to, but you can also get an email from the agent and respond to it. Like write a reply to the email like you were writing a reply to a person, and it will carry on that conversation with you. Our intention is to add SMS as well. So you could interact with the agent through your messages, which a lot of these small business users, that's their natural mode of communication with the people that they collaborate with. And so in that way of thinking about agentic products, what you're trying to do is not introduce new technology that people have to think about as technology, but new ways to interact with the technology that feel more human and natural, which is so freaking exciting because, again, it actually works. This isn't theoretical. It's actually working today. It's wild.
Well,
Yeah.
and I fully, I love the points that you guys are making. I guess I'm curious as to in the process of presenting agents to the actual small business user, do you in some ways kind of have to put it in a little bit of packaging to try and encourage them to really understand what it is and how it can be used? Because I think that a lot of people doing this kind of grunt work would appreciate an agent stepping in and say, hey, let me take this off your hands. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pushback on that. But what you're really getting at is that AI is a creative force as much as anything, and in that it unlocks time to be more creative and to put your resources of your brain, which is limited, still limited, unfortunately, but put it towards the things that are the creativity that's going to most impact your business. So again, I agree with both what you're saying, but how do you present the agent to be a kind of a friendly arrival, not an IRS agent or some other kind of agent form?
Rachel, can I ask you a question about that? Because this is one of my biggest struggles is like, what Dave's getting at is something that we talk about that like the problem that we have to solve is a problem of trust, right? That this thing is going to be a net benefit to me. It's going to do the things that it can say, and it's not going to go off the rails. Have you found a way to communicate that to your users or early users that's actually been effective?
So I can answer this in two ways. I can tell you what we're not doing, and I can tell you what we are doing. So let's start with what we're not doing. And this is not to say that there's a right or wrong way to do things. I'm just telling you what we found based on our own research and our own intuition and the way we like to, build our relationships with the small businesses that use our solution. If you look out there, at a lot of solutions that cater to the small business market, or not even just to small businesses, even, direct to consumer or B2B, enterprise level, you'll notice that a lot of companies or a lot of products are using avatars and creating these faces and names to embody the idea of an agent. And I think that's a really smart way to, kind of eliminate some of that fear and some of that stress and stuff. We've all watched so many science fiction movies. We all think about, oh, we have to be polite to ChatGPT because one day it's going to rule the world. And if we're rude to it, they're going to find ways, they'll know where we live.
I always say, please, every time.
Yeah. So I think, I'm just saying, I totally, it's a valid approach and I respect it. We chose to do things a little bit differently at vcita, and we chose not to create names and faces because we believe that these names and faces are a temporary solution, because we know that, we started talking about how one day saying it's on AI is going to be like saying it's on the internet. I think one day, and not even so far in our future, AI is just going to be part of how we work. And it's just going to be this layer of value that's embedded into any digital solution we use. And it's not going to need a name and a face. And I think today in vcita, we've made the decision to build towards that and sort of skip this intermediate stage where everything needs to have a name and, oh, and I'm, Melissa, and I'm, this is my job and this is my face. Like, no, we chose to go with a more embedded approach. And time will tell. But I'd like to believe that we're doing it this way because we want to create a more kind of consistent experience across the platform and help our users build the habits of using AI throughout their entire workday without the need to call upon some sort of agent. And maybe it's this agent for this and this agent for that. And that can potentially, in our case at least, create some friction or fragmentation. So we decided to go with an embedded approach. I can tell you that in terms of a trust building exercise, what we've chosen to do with automation is to sort of give like a half-baked automation experience. And what I mean is, at this point, we know that small businesses, they'll be risking a lot if they just say to some agent, hey, you just answer all my clients and send out my invoices and, manage my calendar for me. AI is the margin of error is small, probably smaller than human, but still, we're not there yet. We need to bridge that gap. And that's why what we're doing today in vcita with our agentic AI proposition is we'll do things like we'll draft the message to the customer. We'll create a draft of the price quote. We'll create a draft of the appointment and just ask the human in the loop to give that final okay before we're, actively engaging with their client on their behalf.
Yeah, I love that. And that human in the loop is like a principle we're really like aligned with as well. And if you're listening and not familiar with the term, it's like human in the loop is this concept that you involve a person to make a decision when there's a significant chance for misalignment between what the human thinks is right and what the model thinks is right. And like you said, in most cases, or in many cases at least, there is going to be alignment. But it's when there's the chance of a misalignment that you involve someone in the loop. That was really interesting to hear about your process around, should we assign an avatar? Because it's something we talked about initially too, and we decided not to do it. But I don't think we thought it through as fully as you did. But the way that you described it is just like, it resonates with me in the gut. It just kind of felt weird to put a non-existent person's face and name on this agent, which is, I don't know, maybe that's just silly.
Well, do either of you think that part of kind of agent evolution is that it becomes, frankly, just more customized to you, your patterns of speech, how you like to digest information, and it's going to slowly but surely just pick up you as an algorithm, and kind of understand what your behaviors and your habits basically ultimately create. So look, I think this to me is the customer experience of AI is the next big conversation, because I think that the AI engineering, just like the internet, will can just continue to blast forward. I mean, it will be just like the internet in the sense that it felt like every week something major and new was happening, in the landscape. But it took a long time before we had something other than a tech garage interface with the internet. I mean, it took a long time before it was friendly and actually something that and I think a lot of it they just wore us out. The engineers wore us out, and we just said, fine, we'll accept this the way of doing things. But I really want to come back to, over the course of the year, this conversation again and again with you guys of just how what you're learning from the front line of creating the experience, the response to the experience, and then frankly imagining the experience as it will have to be, and really bringing small businesses up to speed on how to use your terrific products. So that was a great first third of the conversation, but let me just use it as a springboard into this in your chairs, the volume of technological AI-based advancements that are being talked about, delivered in market is unbelievable. It's just an extraordinary volume. And even if you just want to keep up with it as a hobby, it's exhausting. You guys obviously have to kind of assimilate and synthesize what's going on out there in the world of technology supportive of AI applications. How do you sort it and continue to actually build? I mean, is it really just simply, we're building the airplane while we're flying it? Or is it really more like, no, we're building it and we kind of anticipate where things are going to go. And frankly, we need to get this right here before we could take advantage of any new technology that we'd want to take advantage of. So just give me, how are you dealing with, besides drinking a lot? I know you both do.
So I would say, we have a high level aspiration when we think about how this technology can help people. And what the ideal is, they never have to log into AWeber again. That's how do we work towards that world where they get all the value of the platform and they never have to touch it, in the traditional mouse and keyboard type of interaction. And that, I think, it really helps us focus our thinking around what we build and the technologies we use and the technologies we're interested in. Because frankly, we're pretty far away from that, because there's so much trust and the models need improvement and people need to learn to interact with these things as if they were interacting with an assistant. But that's still our aspiration. So every decision we make has that in mind. And then on the actual, how to stay on top of this, your analogy to the early internet, I think, is the best possible one. And when thinking about how did the builders build the early internet, they tinkered. I remember being a kid and getting a library book out of the library that was how to write a billiards game on my Tandy 1000. And all it was lines of code, that you would copy from the book. I was 9 years old or something like that. And it was that and the value of that is kind of twofold. One is you learn the technologies and you're interacting with one technology and it kind of points you to another technology. But I think the bigger thing is when you're doing this, you get connected to a community of other tinkerers, who are just discovering, and they're trying to solve problems, and they're doing it in weird ways that you never would have thought of. And that's the way that, like, in the midst of this crazy maelstrom of AI stuff, you can stay connected to what's actually working for people, at least in my experience,
No, I think that's great. How about you, Rachel?
So, Chris, I love that you mentioned community, because I feel like just coming out of COVID and people working from home, some going back to hybrid, working back from the office, I feel like there's a certain sense of belonging with the tech community, and people that sit in man positions like yours and mine, who, are kind of like, we're no longer in this world where it's, fend for yourself. And if you find something cool, make sure to protect it because you don't want anyone else to know. It's like, if you found something cool, you're going to post about it on LinkedIn and write it in every professional group possible. And I feel like as a community, as a network, we're definitely feeding off each other and sharing from our experiences. I think at vcita, we were pretty early to roll out, our version of AI at first. And instead of hiding our failures and kind of covering up the mistakes we made, we published it. And Dave, if you remember one of the first conversations we had, I'm pretty sure we spoke pretty openly about these mistakes, because I think there's so much to gain for companies like us that are in the process of, integrating AI into their proposition. And at the end, we just want technology to grow and the industry to grow as a whole. So I think there's a lot of support with, people supporting each other in this case. And then to your question about how do you sort of manage this ongoing trickle of new technology and new trends and things that are happening literally overnight, and you can pull an all-nighter, have your coffee, and then when your coffee's finished, you realize everything you just did is gone because everything just changed. So I think, and this kind of circles back to what we started the conversation with about the driving with value and vision, and not AI and not the technology. AI is the technology that powers the vision and not the vision itself. I myself sort of learned the hard way, and if I can help someone learn it the easy way, that'd be great. I think, you need to keep in mind, what are you trying to build? What problem are you trying to solve? And then once you know how to answer that question, this technology emerges, that technology emerges, this changes, that changes. It matters, but it doesn't change where you are on your mission to reach your goal, because you're using technology to build what you want to build, solve the problems you want to solve. And, the availability of the different technological tools doesn't have to, change your vision or reshape your journey and where you're going.
First of all, brava. That was fantastic. I mean, that was a fantastic kind of synopsis of I think what the challenge is going forward is trying to staying connected to it, but at the same time, not losing sight of the fact that, wait a minute, the flag out in the distance, or as I always say, the lighthouse that we're all kind of floating in our various sized boats to get to, that doesn't change. Condition of the seas, wind blowing, people on board, all that stuff changes radically as you're making your way to that lighthouse. But if you can stay fixed on this notion that AI's ultimate deliverable is time to be more human and creative, if that's what it is, if we can stay focused on that those are really the most important attributes of it. Which leads me to the last question, which again, you guys are, you're managing teams of people and external resources who are helping you in your quest, your vision, your plan to bring products to market for small businesses. How are you finding talent, first of all, that best fits what your way of doing things, your vision of doing things? How do you acclimate your design and development teams to really kind of think maybe differently, not necessarily in the, hey, we're trying to make this button bigger. We're really genuinely trying to change the user experience of managing a business. I know you're both very thoughtful leaders, so I'm really interested to hear how you answer the people question of doing this.
It's, I think, and this is just like the first idea that the first example that pops in my mind. You know how you have usually within a hiring process, you'll have some sort of home assignment. And you send someone, and you send someone a bunch of questions, or you tell them, be prepared to present this idea to me. And you give them a week or a couple of days or a couple of hours to do it. And something that's funny, really actually pretty hysterical that happened when, I think it was just after, ChatGPT was launched. it was very obvious that people were using this to create these home assignments to the extent where several people would walk in and deliver the exact same presentation, word by word.
Busted.
And I have to say, there's a certain sadness to this. There are people that show up and it's very clear that all they did was write the prompt, not even review what they copied and pasted onto their presentation. And now when they have to stand in defendant, they're just kind of like a deer caught in the headlights because they don't even remember what it is.
Right,
They didn't write it. It's not their baby. They didn't design it themselves. And I think that to me is an important test because I think, you know what? Going to, any type of Gen AI solution and generating the answers to the questions, that's not cheating. That's the world. That's how you're going to be tackling your actual real day challenges at your potentially new day job. The test is, are you able to understand it, explain it, and defend it? And if you're not able to defend it, that's where we have a problem. I can say the same thing about kids in schoolwork. My daughter is 9. And when she gets assignments, I used to have to go to the library and find the right book and photocopy the encyclopedia and then copy it. She doesn't have to do any of that. And she's using, Copilot or ChatGPT to generate, answers to homework. And that's not cheating. That's fine.
Yeah.
She's getting the information. And the challenge becomes not obtaining the information. That's just a technicality, getting hold of the relevant information. We're privileged to have these tools. But once we have them, the real challenge is how do we train ourselves to get the information that's easy to access and shape it and convert it into something that tells a story, generates value, answers the questions someone is answering us. So I think that's already a good indication when you're hiring, just to see how people are using AI in the home assignment, to what degree they're able to really, just use the information to truly still be creative and create something that is theirs. And then something else that I've been thinking about a lot recently is not necessarily with new employees, but with the existing teams. How do we make sure that people that have been with us for a few years are able to grow their value and master these new AI skills? We were going to hire a few people to take over, a certain project. And there was a decision made. It's not actually my team. This is another team at vcita. The decision was made to invest in the existing teams' AI skills, and they outsourced this workshop and brought in people to help them and found that these people were able to deliver, their own existing scope plus the scope of the team that was about to be hired when they had the right tools. And it's a win-win. It's a win for the company. It's a win for these employees. It brings us closer to our vision. So I'd say, the investment needs to be made also in evaluating the process, with new employees, but also in making sure your existing teams are just, living their wildest AI dreams at work and able to use the best solutions and, just like supercharge their own productivity and creativity with AI.
That is so good. And I loved how you were talking about on the new hire side of things. I completely agree with that test of, can you understand, explain, and defend the thing that, generative AI or any sort of tool, even like a traditional Google would have given you. And I would say that in general, the only thing I'd add to that is I still think the core thing that you should look for when you're looking for people to do AI things is curiosity. Are they interested in whatever the subject that you're trying to hire them for is? Interested enough that they go beyond a traditional resume? Can they tell you an interesting story about AI tooling in their own personal life? That's a extra plus. And thinking about how that applies to existing team members, that's 100% how we assembled our initial team that was focused on building out our agentic product. Is who were the folks who were just experimenting with things like MCP, the Model Context Protocol that Anthropic put out there early on, or who were just building little prototypes to increase their own efficiency. And then we took those people and tasked them with building an agentic product, and surprise, surprise, they were really good at it. The more challenging side of it is upskilling our teams into AI. And I found that the single biggest thing that has helped there is having leadership set the tone, to make tools readily available. So if you need a OpenAI key or a Claude or Anthropic key, super easy to get. and that we're living the behavior that we want the team to live. Like, this isn't new stuff. It's just the same old good stuff applied to AI. So our CTO has been building and refining a Slack chatbot that is super useful for us in answering questions and finding information. And he's documenting his process along the way and involving team members when he needs a little help from somebody. Over the weekend, I built a Chrome plugin that just was an idea that I had had to make our agentic tool easier to work with for building newsletters. And we're just sharing about that. And that shows the team that this stuff is actually useful and it's actually accessible. And our expectation is that you're using these tools. And I think like that is the challenge with, at least that we experienced early on, is that folks weren't comfortable with a lot of the concept of using AI tools in their work, and leaders stepping up and showing that like not only is it acceptable, but it's really helpful, kind of changed the whole tenor of how the team thinks about AI.
It's again really fascinating, and it's great that you guys both represent something that I hope is more enculturated across all of the different enterprises attempting to serve small businesses, but a very humane kind of approach, and one that is very much grounded in the AI does not supersede human intelligence and emotional intelligence, and just simply, frankly, an ability to process the innovation that's happening. That's still us who's really driving that and working that. So do you guys have these kinds of direct conversations about the philosophy, the culture, the, kind of the mindset of what you're doing and articulating so well? Do you have those conversations, Rachel, with your teams, with your peers, with your bosses?
All the time. It's all we talk about all day. No, but seriously, I think, look, at vcita, we have this thing, like every year we'll have like the 4 or 5 kind of key initiatives in the company. Mm-hmm. And the CEO, will stand on the stage in the annual kickoff and present these 4 or 5 ideas. And they're usually outbound. So they're usually things that there's never anything in there that's like about culture or about, it's always about, we're going to achieve this. We're going to do that. Our product is going to go places. We're going to, start working with this new market segment. And I think this was the first year where I saw him present something that was internal, all about vcita's culture and how we work and how we collaborate. And it was all about kind of stepping up the AI game internally. And I think this is, it's also because there's a new standard of work, and we have to make sure that everything we do, we're maximizing, the potential of every task, but with using the best tools out there. But I also think, and this is very similar to what you're saying, Chris, I think it's also about leading by example. How can we build an AI tool for people and expect them to use it to its fullest extent if we're not doing the same in our everyday lives? So I think that's, and it's something that, obviously it echoes across, once the CEO presents it on the big stage, it's something that comes up in team meetings all the time. We have like a task force that's trying to implement more AI best practices across the company. I think it's becoming more and more just like a part of, how there was the future of work buzzword. So this is the real future of work. How do we become the best versions of ourselves using AI?
Yeah. And I think that the shadow of the leader is what I was always taught. If you really want to influence your team, particularly your direct reports, then be who you want them to be. Don't try. You have to lead by that very, very direct example. Well, I guess last but not least, because again, this has been fascinating. It's kind of been a tour de force. I think ultimately the key messages that you guys are trying to drive home are really important for everybody to hear and continuously remind themselves of as they going week in, week out on building out to taking to market these awesome products and services for small business. But as you kind of think about what this is doing, are you becoming your own favorite futurist? I mean, are you kind of, as you kind of look at, okay, here's what I see. I'm seeing this very, very clearly. I mentioned in this last newsletter that I listened last Tuesday to Kathy Wood and her she has a very, very large private equity fund called ARK Investments, and she does big ideas for whatever year, for 2025. And it was really kind of just drilling down on 5 key areas of growth and of innovation that are going to be wildly impactful. The deliverable date on all these things is not 10 years, not 5 years. It's like the end of 2025. These things will have been very well established. Here's, let's look into 2026. Here's 100 more things that are going to be wildly impactful. The speed with which this is all happening. How are you kind of looking at your own futures as the professionals that you are, the skills that you have? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, that is like the question for all of us, right? Is like, how do we continue to provide value in a world where there are tools capable of much of the knowledge work that we do right now? And I'm going to actually take it back to my background is in design. And I talk to a lot of young designers who are just frankly petrified coming out of school. And they're like, what am I going to do? Am I going to have a job? Is design even going to exist in 5 years, 10 years? And my answer to them is like, unfortunately, a lot of the jobs that were guaranteed out of school in the past are probably going to go away or change completely. And these are like the low-level production jobs where you're doing repeated tasks that these models can do and we should expect them to do. But so there's going to be change, but change doesn't mean bad, or it doesn't have to mean bad. I'm kind of like, at one time, an incredible AI optimist and also the biggest AI doomer that you'll ever meet, because like so much of what happens next depends on us, the people who are building these things right now, and making sure that we're building them responsibly in a way that, Dave, to your point earlier, augments humans and doesn't seek to replace humans, because frankly, like there's certain innate things to us that these models just can't replace, and I'm skeptical they'll ever be able to replace. So when I talk to designers, those things are kind of 2 things. Novel thought, like actually new ideas that come from conversations with people that maybe require a more nuanced understanding than a model can do right now, or a personal relationship, or some sort of understanding of vernacular that is difficult, or being able to connect the dots between like nonverbal cues. That's something that humans can do better, are able to do better, is come up with these truly original and helpful ideas. And then the second is service. Whether that is as a designer, you're providing just an experience for your client that makes them feel special or makes them feel confident and comfortable. That's something that humans can do really well. And in my case, what I'm thinking about is like, how do I use these tools to the best of my ability to augment my specifically human tools that the models can't do? How do I use them to have better novel thoughts faster and to test those novel thoughts faster? How do I use them to better connect with the customers on the other end of the screen and make them feel more comfortable? And in our case, that's like, how do we get to this mission of a user never having to log into our product or necessarily think about our product again, but just get the value of it? So like, that answer is going to be somewhat unsatisfactory to people if you really think about what I just said. And part of that is just me still struggling with this, is like, because of how fast things are moving, because I don't know what the model is going to be able to do by the end of this year, even with how connected we are to them, I just kind of don't know. So I'm trying to double down on these human skills. Like, how can I make the best advantage of my ability to come up with novel thoughts? And how do I serve people, whether they're my customers or my team?
Amazing.
I love that. I how we were saying before, how AI can take over things that aren't, your kind of core skill and take that whole, in vcita's case, in the SMB scenario, it's administrative overhead. But in our case, it could also just be, these repetitive tasks that take off so much of our time. We're able to clear our desks of so much of that. Just think, where we can go. Just think how much faster we can move, and we can like chase our wildest dreams and wildest ideas, things that wouldn't be available 2 years ago, could suddenly become a new reality. And I think that's how I encourage everyone to think of AI, carry that level of optimism and excitement, obviously there's a million ways it can go wrong, and it's scary, and, we can't completely shy away from that. But I do think, as you say, we're sort of in a way the kind of founding generation of what AI will look like. And I think our responsibility is to build that sentiment and use, that story, that line of story, to get people excited and engaged and curious and believe, just being optimistic and believe that this is going to make the world a better place, definitely not worse.
Yeah, and both of you guys are tremendous representatives of the generation that builds AI. It's not us old farts. It's you guys that are really, and the generations that frankly that come after you are responsible for really making this what potentially it can be. Absolutely fantastic, guys. We'll make this transcript available, even throw it through AI a couple of times, but it's been an absolutely fantastic dialogue. And I appreciate both of you guys as the kind of leaders that people that of my generation, like Stephen Aldrich, who built QuickBooks and GoDaddy, basically did all of their products. Somebody like Raj Mukherjee, who basically similarly built a lot of stuff, not the least of which was Indeed and the Indeed platform. So kind of heroes of the product development space in B2SMB. They would be very, very proud of you if they were sitting here and listening to you, because you guys are carrying the torch of frankly customer first engineering, which I think is sometimes hard to find in our space. But anyway, great stuff, guys. Thank you so much for doing this, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. And Chris, it was so great to meet you. I'm so happy we got to share the stage, the virtual stage.
And Chris, take care.
Oh yeah, I learned so much on this call. This was so fun.
Same.
Always a blast. Can't wait to see what you do with your agentic products.
Same. I'll be watching you guys closely for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us for this episode of Between2Bs, the official podcast of the B2SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes at the crossroads of the big B and the small B. Between2Bs on your favorite streaming services.